So here's Sandie Mourão. She'll be doing a presentation for you today, teaching English to pre-primary. And yeah, take it away, Sandie.
Okay, that was a very quick introduction, Alex. Okay, well, it's very nice to be here, and thank you very much to Orada, for, is that how I say it? Onada, for inviting me and for wanting to promote this particular book, which I'm going to be talking about. So, yeah, teaching English to pre-primary children, getting it right is the title of my session, and I've prepared a session which, just a minute, why won't it? Okay, it won't go there. There we go. Prepared a session which literally sort of talks you through the book. And the reason why is because I was asked to do a promotional session. But what I wanted to do also was to give you little snippets from different sections and offer a couple of takeaway ideas as well. And of course, answer any questions that you may have. So yeah, so this is the book which I'm talking about. Here it is. And I'm very proud to be talking about it because it's taken me 17 years to write. So it has most of my experience as a pre-primary teacher and a pre-primary teacher educator, and also a researcher into working with pre-primary children and their teachers. So it's a book which is very close to my heart. And yeah, so I'm really, really proud to have completed it. It took me a very long time, and it wasn't until I asked Gail Ellis to join me that I was really able to finish it properly. So, so I'm here to talk about the book, but also just to let you know that there is a companion website with lots of downloadable PDFs which accompany many of the chapters and some of the activities which are suggested. And that can be found on the Delta Publishing website, so that's deltapublishing.co.uk. And maybe Alex could just pop up the link into the chat box later on or at the end. Okay, so why did I write this book? Well, and also why did I write this book, and why did I continue writing this book, in the sense that why did it take me it took me 17 years and I didn't give up. Well, I didn't give up because the publishers are fantastic and they supported me throughout, but also because I was absolutely certain that that teachers, well, I'll just read the answer out if you like. So to support teachers in their endeavour to ensure that children's early language learning experience paves the way for a positive, lifelong language learning experience, guided by an approach which considers the development of the whole child. So this is the basic premise that runs through the book, in the sense that we're not teaching a language, we are teaching children through the language. And a lot of teachers come to teaching pre-primary children as language specialists. And we need to ensure that we shake off our language hat and replace it with an early childhood educator's hat. I suppose we need to wear them both, but the early childhood educator's hat needs to be firmly seated on your heads. The book follows the EEE, whoops, lazy, sorry. The book follows the EEE model, which starts with encounter, where we talk about the theory, we present the theory and the rationale behind teaching English to pre-primary children, and we conclude with 10 principles. Then we have the engage section, where we get our hands messy and get into the actual practice, lots of practical ideas and activities for the application of theory into practice. And then, as with all of these Delta Teach Development series, there is a third part which we have slotted into the exploit section, where as young children, as educators of young children, we hope that you will have taken all of the theory and all of the practice, and now we suggest ways that you can use this acquired knowledge for further professional development. Part B is the biggest bit. It's full of lots of practical ideas. So in part A, in the theory bit, where you are encountering all the information about teaching children under the age of school and formal starting school starting age, which varies around the world. Here in Portugal, it's 6. In the UK, it's a little earlier. In Germany, it's at 7. I think it's 6 or 7 in Russia. I can remember from what I spoke to Russian teachers when I met them last year. So it introduces the pre-primary child. We explain some key theories into child development. And no one's written anything yet in the chat box. I clarify the 6 different areas of development we need to take into consideration when we are educating young children. We outline the implications for teaching and learning English based on all of this theory, and we present 10 principles for effective language teaching and learning. So let's just focus once more on that premise. I don't want you to forget about it, the idea of a holistic approach to teaching the young child. So we should never think that language learning is a separate part of child development. And as Margaret Donaldson said many years ago, that language learning skills are not isolated from the rest of his mental growth. Therefore, we cannot look at language learning as a separate subject-specific activity. We need to think of children learning through language. So we need to provide age-appropriate contexts for language to be used. And for children to pick up language which is meaningful to them. And to do that, then, we need to consider the 6 developmental areas of child development. So the personal, social, and emotional development, communication, language, and literacy, problem solving, reasoning, and numeracy, knowledge and understanding of the world, physical development, and creative development. And throughout the book, we constantly remind the reader that particular activities will be developing certain areas or several areas. So we're trying to support the teacher as much as possible to keep that early childhood educator hat on their head. So I'll just read through the 10 pedagogical principles that we present at the end of part A. And they run through part B, and they're picked up very, very clearly in the exploit, in the professional development section, because professional development activities are organized around the 10 principles. So children are legitimate holders of human rights and competent, powerful, and active learners with agency. They are very, very capable of so much more than many of us give them credit for. Oh, I'm sorry, it keeps disappearing. There we go. Children will sometimes use their home language when learning English, and this should be viewed as part of the natural process of language acquisition and evidence of learning. So we're very much in agreement that children will be using their linguistic repertoires, so in this case it would be Russian and English. Is there a problem? Is that okay?
Yeah, everything's fine, thank you.
Okay, so I just heard a voice. There haven't been any comments in the chat, so I hope everything's okay. I welcome comments. Children develop holistically. I'm having problems with my mouse today, and they show individual differences in development and progress at different rates. So again, we're highlighting the fact that we need to look at children's, thank you, Victoria, whole development and not just their language development. Children need positive and meaningful learning environments where they feel safe, secure, included, valued, and confident to experiment with English. So in creating these environments, and we're giving children lots of opportunities to have a go through developmentally appropriate activities and things to do. And part B is full of ideas for that. Children need quality interactions to scaffold their learning and to derive meaning from more than one source of information. So we're very keen in the fact that you that you realize that you are important in their language learning experience, and that you're able to provide lots of opportunities for them to hear, see, feel English through the different activities that you develop. Children need effective and predictable routines to enable them to become responsible, independent and confident learners, and to predict and acquire language. There's a whole section on routines and how to run them in Part B. Children need encouragement to recognize their accomplishments and efforts and to support their interest in learning. And these encouragements are not always empty praises with constant, well done, very good, but constructive praise, which helps the child see what they've done and how they've done it, and to what extent they've done it, and maybe how they might be able to improve it. Children learn through purposeful, planned and familiar activities by making links to what they already know. So it's essential that we consider what the child is, how they are, what they've done, where they've been, and that we are giving them activities which are appropriate to their development. And I missed off the word familiar, play-based activities there, apologies. It was hidden by the chat on my screen. So there are many tips on how to ensure that activities are prepared so that they lead into play-based there are many activities which emphasize play-based learning, but also moments within the information that help you see how you can allow these children to play more freely and not necessarily teacher-led. Children need to develop their listening and speaking skills in English so that they can be successful at reading and writing later. So there's a real focus on listening and speaking, and the literacy section does not mention phonics. So what we're doing is helping you see that many of the activities that you do develop listening and speaking and support emergent literacy later on. You don't have to focus on formal reading and writing activities. And children benefit from their parents' involvement and their support at home to value and maximize their language learning. There's a very strong message throughout the book that everyone involved in the child's learning is responsible for what they're doing in English. So it's not just the English teacher, but it's if you work alongside, or if they have a pre-primary practitioner, working closely with parents. So we like to think of a triangle where we have the child, we have the school, and we have the home, and they're very much connected. And the school involves all the staff, not just the English teacher. So those are the principles, very briefly. How are we for time? So Part B then, which is the big fat bit and full of practical ideas and activities, is organized into 10 chapters. And we start by preparing you, by getting ready think before you enter the classroom, before you start teaching English to the children, what is it that you need to know and what is it that you need to prepare? Getting started, songs, chants and rhymes, games and game-like activities, that's probably the biggest chapter. Sharing stories, early literacy, science and technology, numeracy, visual arts, and looking at learning. After COVID-19, I suppose we should have had a chapter on virtual learning, but the book had just been, was in publication when that happened. I remember we talked about having a chapter on ICT, but I must admit it's not one of my favorite bits, and so I didn't push that. So each chapter is clearly structured. So there's an introduction which extends the theory that was introduced in Part A, and it's very focused on that particular chapter to support the practical activities which follow. Then there is a bridging section which highlights how the activities suggested are develop the whole child. There are considerations for different age groups, so the 3, the 4 and the 5-year-olds. There's suggestions for collaboration between pre-primary practitioners and parents, and there are questions to reflect on your own practice and how the children are managing. And then there are lots and lots of practical activities in each chapter. So I thought I would just look at each chapter separately, very briefly, and introduce one little activity for you to possibly think about, maybe try out if you're interested. So the Getting Ready chapter looks at your setting, possible learning outcomes. Very important that you consider what it is you want your children to be able to do at the end of a year of language, and that this is in agreement with who you're working with if you're working with a pre-primary professional. How to understand your groups of children, and a very important thing is how to remember your children's names and your class puppet. So I just thought I would share a little bit about class puppet. So this is Morgan, who actually follows us through the book. Here he is, look, he's a real puppet. We've got a couple of photographs of him in the book. So the Morgan and working with your puppet. So there's a little bit on why using a puppet, and how to prepare for your puppet, how to hold him, how to speak to him. It's very important to look at the puppet in the face, and so he has you know, just as when you're talking to people, you look at them in the eye. So tips and information about that. Whether you want to give your puppet a voice or not, we suggest that you don't have to, that the puppet can. You see, Morgan is saying that you don't need to give him a voice. No, he's happy to whisper in your ear, and then you can tell everyone what he's trying to say. How to present the puppet to your children, providing a set of ground rules. This is actually really important because children sometimes want to punch or pull or harm him. They don't take him seriously. But you know, if you introduce the ground rules when you present the puppet, then it's much easier for the children to follow. Some tips on how the children might respond to the puppet and how to help them not be afraid if they are afraid. Nobody would be afraid of you, would they, Morgan? No, no, no. Where you might want to leave your puppet. So when you leave the classroom, do you want to take the puppet with you? Would you like to stay in the classroom, Morgan? Yeah, okay. Or would you like to come home with me in my bag? Oh, Morgan would like to come home with me in my bag. And then how to use your puppet. So you can use Morgan to, or your puppet, to demonstrate routines, to demonstrate emotions, to demonstrate good behavior, to console children, to help children focus, to introduce new topics or ideas, and to help children reflect on their learning. So there are all sorts of different things that you can do with your puppet, and we outline those in that chapter. Thanks, Morgan. Bye-bye. So that's Morgan and using a puppet. Okay. Next chapter, getting started, where we look at how you manage behavior, how you manage your space, your time, and managing routines. So I thought that we would look at managing routines. So there are 4 routines that we talk about: the opening routine, the timeline routine, the transition routine, and the closing routine. And you're probably familiar at least with the first one and the last 2. So I just thought I would briefly mention the timeline routine. I'm having problems here with my chat box because it covers much of the screen. Okay, so what is a timeline then? What is the timeline routine? Well, a timeline makes planned activities visible. And as you can see in this photograph, a teacher from the British Council, this is Helen Chapman. It's a lovely photo, so we use it in our presentations. She has got a kind of clock with the different illustrations which demonstrate the activities which she has planned for the session. It doesn't have to be in a clock, it can be in a line. It can be on a ladder going through, or going up, or going down. But it serves as a visible guide to what is happening in class. And how does it work? The template for some of the images which you think you might want to use for some of the activities are available in the companion website online. So how does this timeline work? Well, at the beginning of your English session, you present, you share with the children what it is that you are going to, what you've planned for them to do. So it gives them an idea of where they're going over the next, however, maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes of your session. So the purpose is for the children to prepare and to begin to think about their learning. Then during, you can often refer to it and say, oh, what's next? What are we going to be doing next? Where are we? And so that helps the children think about where they are and focus and follow their learning. And then at the end of the session, you can use it to return to what you've done and review and reflect your learning. So you can ask the children things like, what did you do? And how did you manage? And did we do okay? Do you think we should do that again? Or could we... So this is just an example of a group of children in Portugal where I work, where they are using what we call a non-verbal scale to reflect. So they're thinking about a rhyme which they've been saying a couple of times, and they've said it over 2 or 3 sessions, and so they're thinking about how well they are able to say rhyme. So if they think they can just mime it, so they can use actions to follow it, they use 1 finger. If they think they can actually now say bits of it, they use 2 fingers, and if they think they can say it all, they use 3 fingers. So as you can see in the picture here, most of the children, not all of them, think that they're able to say bits of it. There's one little girl, look there, with the pink skirt. She's got 1 finger up, so she thinks that she can just mime it. Now, these children are 5 years old, and they're very capable of reflecting on their learning in this way. And the more you do these kinds of activities, the more able they become. Okay, I've just seen Victoria's message there. Yes, Victoria, yes, I brought Morgan into Moscow. Okay. So, songs, chants and rhymes. I had such fun writing this chapter, collecting lots and lots of songs and chants and rhymes. And there is actually a little book of rhymes on the companion website. So we look at why use them, when to use them, how to select them, and how to introduce them. And I provide very clear, structured stages to do that. We look at songs, rhymes, singing games, and music generally. So here is one example of a rhyme. And this rhyme is, why have I used it? Let me just see. Oh, there it is. There we go. This rhyme is used for helping children to settle down. So the rationale for the rhyme is that when the children are in circle time, sometimes they need, or they should follow certain rules to help everyone be comfortable and learn together. And so we need to provide a child appropriate way of helping them see these rules. So I can use a chant to do that, or a sort of, well, it's not a chant, it's a sort of singy-songy. So this is how it goes. This is the way we cross our legs, cross our legs, cross our legs. This is the way we cross our legs when it's circle time. So the children hear the song. You might remember, you might recognize the tune, which comes from Here We Go Round the Mulberry Bush. Yeah. When they hear it, they're able to sit and cross their legs. So how would you introduce this? Well, you would ask the children, maybe in Russian or in English, probably in Russian, because if they're at the beginning of a learning sequence, they might not, and they don't know how to sit with their legs crossed or sit in circle time, and they probably don't have any English either. So you might ask them, what they need to do when they're all together in the circle. Elicit in Russian and then rephrase in English. So the children might say, we have to sit with our legs crossed. And you say, yes, we have to sit with our legs crossed. You show them a picture of sitting with the legs crossed and you sing the song, or say the chanty, singy-songy thing. And then we all sit with our legs crossed. And then you ask them what else. And you elicit the 3 things that you want to sing, or whatever it is you want them to do in your circle time. I've chosen sit with your legs crossed. I've chosen sit with your arms crossed, and be quiet. Okay. And as you introduce, as you rephrase and show a picture, you say the song. And then when you've got what you want the three actions. You say the song together, and the children sit in the circle as you've asked them to. So that's how you set it up. And then at the beginning of every circle time, you sing this song. And as you sing it, you encourage the children to do the actions. And then as they get more confident, they can sing it with you. And you can introduce other actions that you think are important. Yeah. And there might be something which happens in the middle of an activity which is not appropriate, and so you can use this song to introduce another rule, so it can be continued through. So it works very well. Age considerations here, this is something which the 3-year-olds would happily be able to do with the 3 actions. The 4 and 5-year-olds, you can introduce far more actions, and the song can be a little bit longer. Okay, so that's just one of the many songs that that we introduce, and as I said, there is a book of rhymes available online for you to download. So games and game-like activities. This is a really big chapter because much of what we do is based on games and game-like activities, and so I help you see why we use these games and game-like activities, enveloping the whole child and developing the whole child, getting ready for games, using games, and there's a lovely section on taking games into the playground. And we've got about, I think there are 8 different playground games that you can use, either in large spaces indoors or outside. And it's divided into those 3 E's that I introduced at the beginning: the encounter, engage, and exploit. And I'll explain a little bit about those in a minute. But first, I just want to share a game with you. And so this game is a very simple game. It's called, what's it called? It's called Is It True? So I want to make sure that I'm just giving you the right instructions here. There it is, yep. So the rationale for this game is that it's from the engage stage, so it's the second stage in learning, where we're encouraging the children to take more responsibility for using language. So this game helps them, so they have to repeat language, but they have to think about repeating it. So it's cognitively challenging. So what do you need? Well, you need a puppet. I'm going to use Morgan. Hello, Morgan, it's you again. And you need some colour flashcards, or flashcards generally. I'm using colour ones, okay? And first of all, we have to model the game. So, Morgan. Oh, that's a good idea, Morgan, yes. Okay, Morgan says that he would like to play Is It True? Would you like to play Is It True with him? I think the children do. Okay, Morgan. Okay, so, Morgan. It's a colour, isn't it? It's red. Is that right? Is it red? Is it red? Is it red? Yes, it is. Okay, yes, it is. So we can all say together, it's red, because it's red. Okay, okay, good. Next one. Morgan, how about this one? Morgan, it's yellow. Is that right? It's yellow. It's yellow. No, it isn't, is it? No, no, it's not. So, shh, we don't repeat. Okay, okay, so if it's true, we repeat. If it isn't true, we don't say anything. Okay, okay, so you've modelled it, and now we're going to play the game. Okay, children, it's yellow. Is that true? Yes, and all the children will say it's yellow. Okay, so that's the game. Very simply, you can do it with any of the topics that you're working with. Thanks, Morgan. I'm going to put you down now. Okay. What's important? Whoops, a daisy. Where's that gone? Sorry, everyone. I'm not very good at this. There we go. What's important is that we encourage you to hand over the game, in the sense that it's not always you leading it, but the children also need to be given an opportunity to lead in the activities. So in this sense, when you feel that the children are confident, you might bring a child up and they will be responsible for saying a true or a false sentence for the rest of their group of children to copy and repeat. Okay, so this is not appropriate for 3-year-olds. They haven't quite got the conceptual, you know, the idea of saying something which isn't true there. Okay, the 4-year-olds will enjoy it, but they might take a while to pick up the idea of the game. The 5-year-olds should be fine with this. Okay, so it's a very simple game, but it's using language meaningfully. Okay. Now, the game that I just shared with you doesn't come from the encounter stage of learning, because in the encounter stage, we set up activities where the children can encounter new words and phrases, and they use their hearing, so they hear you say the word. They use their sight, you normally always have a flashcard, and they use their knowledge of the world to put the language into context. They're also using their bodies a lot as well to show you that they have understood, either by putting their thumbs up or by miming. So they hear and they feel the body through movements and chorusing. And it's a very important stage. It focuses on listening. And we need to spend as much time as possible on that. And some children will spend a lot of time in this stage before they begin to take responsibility for using language a little bit more by themselves, which is the engage stage, which is where that game that I explained to you fitted into. So in the engage stage, the children are encouraged to engage with the language. So the situations are often controlled, just like that game I shared. And there are repetitive games and tasks. So there's an emphasis on becoming responsible for remembering the language. So the children begin to understand that they can begin to show that they understand and use English as individuals, not just by chorusing what everyone else is saying. And then the exploit stage, which is really, really important to provide activities which enable children to exploit language. And many teachers forget this. But to exploit language, they are using it for their own pleasure. And these contexts, you should be creating contexts which are much freer, with a clear purpose for communication. So children show you that what they can do in English. So they often use English autonomously, and they communicate with a purpose. Okay, and you'll have to read the book to see which activities do that. Okay. Sharing stories. This was such a pleasure to write. I'd never written something specifically about storytelling for this age group, which was based on information about sharing stories, and as many of you who follow my work will know that storytelling is such an important part of what I do. So I look particularly at traditional stories and picture books. Then we look at, and with picture books I actually explain what a picture book is and different parts of the picture book, which I think all teachers should know about, and I provide you with some meta language to talk about picture books. We also look at selecting stories and then staging stories, and so I just thought that I would briefly, so the 3 picture books that I talk about are Brown Bear, What Do You See?, which everyone I think knows about, and if you don't, shame on you. Goodnight Gorilla, which is one of my favorite picture books. There it is. This is the one I'm just going to talk about a little bit more. And Pete the Cat, which many of you are also familiar with. I chose them because they show different things about what a picture book is. So Brown Bear, the pictures and the words match so well that it's such an easy book to start with if you've never shared a picture book before. Lots of lovely activities, and there are downloadable images for Brown Bear on the companion website for you to use. There's also a little film with me talking about peritext that you can look at. Goodnight Gorilla is slightly different in the sense that it's almost wordless, and there are not many words, and so that's a challenge for teachers. So we provide support for you to use a picture book which is a little bit different to what you might usually think about. And Pete the Cat is interesting because it uses song within the picture book, so within the picture book verbal text, and so we thought it'd be interesting to share a picture book like that with you. So Goodnight Gorilla then. Some of the follow-up activities for this are, I really loved creating these. What have I got? So this picture book is about a gorilla in a zoo who steals the zookeeper's keys and then lets all the animals out of the cages. And one of the animals is an armadillo, which comes from South America. So one of the suggested activities is that the children discover, find out about armadillos, where they're from, and what they look like, and if they live near a zoo, maybe they could even try and visit one. Then there is a suggestion to sequence the activity, or sequence the story, sorry, because there's a very clear sequence, and so this is an important pre-literacy activity for children. So, and then they role play the story, and then the final suggestion is that they make a little map of the zoo, which can either be large scale around their classroom, or they can draw it on the playground. So lots of nice ideas there for following up this story. Okay, you're all very quiet. I hope you're okay there. If you've got any questions, do pop them in the chat box. So early literacy, I've already mentioned a couple of early literacy ideas, in the sense that, you know, we are sequencing sequencing a story is an early literacy activity, where the children get a feeling for the beginning, the middle and the end, and what happens in the middle, and how there's a build up. So we look at literacy development in English, and literacy development in English. So these are the 6 topics: syllables, nursery rhymes. There's a big section there. So, and you'll see that we're returning to some of the information that we visited in other chapters. So we've got nursery rhymes, and we've got picture books, where we've already had a chapter on nursery rhymes. We've already had a chapter on picture books. So here we focus specifically on what these nursery rhymes and picture books, how they contribute to developing early literacy. We look at first letter sounds and dramatic play and environmental print. So what I thought I would share with you today is the first stage in early literacy, and that's syllables. And it's not something that we tend to do in ELT, especially with this age group. Just have a drink of water. Clapping the syllables in a word is a fantastic game-like activity for beginning to pick up how many syllables there are in a word, which later helps children decode words when they see them on the page. So this activity, the reason for this is so the rationale is that the child's name is probably the most important word for them. So using an activity based around their name, even if it's not an English name, it's a name, it's their name, is a really nice idea. So what do you need? Well, you need your hands, that's it. When do you do it? Well, you do it when children are familiar with all of their own names, okay? And how do you set it up? Well, you could use the puppet as well, again. The puppet can be used for all sorts of opportunities for showing examples. So let's say Morgan. Okay, let's clap Morgan's name. You ready? Morgan. Ah, there are 2 sounds in Morgan's name. Look, Morgan. Ah, that's fantastic, isn't it? 1, 2, Morgan. Okay. Let's see. Let's choose Natalia. Oh, how many claps can we do for Natalia? You ready? Natalia. Ah, how many claps was that? Shall we do it again? Natalia. 2, 3, 4. Let's go. Natalia. 4 claps in Natalia's name. Okay. So you do lots of examples like that, counting the claps in the children's names. That's right. And gradually over time, you choose different children's names. It can be a little routine that you do at the beginning of a session, where you choose a couple of children's names and you clap their names out. And then without saying the name, clap the syllables and see how many children can guess which name it is. So there might be several children with 4 syllables in their name, and so if they can identify those names with the 4 syllables, even if they don't identify the name that you have chosen, they're still identifying the names of the 4 syllables. So yes, and then after the activity, of course, once the children, so this isn't something that happens overnight. You know, it might take you 5, 6, 7 weeks for you to be able to get to giving the claps and the children guessing the name. Once you feel that they're confident, there you could try, and you could then move on to English words. using the same idea. Okay, so it's a really nice little activity there, which becomes very integrated into your teaching. Okay. Science and technology. Now, this chapter was written by Anita Dimitriev, who's a colleague who works in Galicia, and it's such a pleasure to have. She's very, very experienced in this, and I'm not. So I thought, what's the point of me doing it if I've never really been able to do it properly, and I don't know how to do it. So this is Anita, and she does some really exciting things with science and technology, she also has she's also very structured in how she does her things, so it was very nice to write about this with her. So she talks about experiments, problem solving, and explorations. And so I just thought I would share the experiment of mixing colors. Absolutely, mixing colors is an experiment. I don't know if you knew that, but it's a very easy experiment to set up with children, and we help you think about what you need to do, what you need to set up, when these kinds of activities should be done. So they should be done when children are more familiar with a lexical set that you're going to be working with. So it's the concept and the ideas behind the experiment which are new, and not the language. Okay, so how to do it then? Well, you need to show the children what it is they need. So you have a little rhyme. What do you want? What do you need? What do you need? And you show the children what you need. You need a wooden spoon, you need some plastic cups, you need some food colouring, and you need some tap water. Then as you set up the experiment and you do the different things, you continue the chant. How do you do it? How do you do it? So you put the water in the cups, and you drop the food colouring into the cup. So you can begin to see the very structured, clear stages that we've set up for you to be able to do this. So you've done the experiment, then you've so you've put the blue in the water, you're about to put the red in the water, you're going to use your magic spoon to stir it, but you say, because it's very important that you enable children to predict what they think will happen. Okay, so you say, what will happen? What will happen? You drop in the red and you turn it around and you mix it up with your magical spoon. What happened? It turned purple. That's right. So then at the end, you have to get the children to think, why did it happen? Why did it happen? And then you have a little plenary talk with the children, which might have to be in Russian because they might not be able to explain or think about things, but you can rephrase and help the children see that when you mix blue and red, it becomes purple. Okay, so it's a really nice chapter and quite unusual. Got some really lovely activities there, but you'll have to buy the book to find out. Haha. Okay, numeracy. Oh, whenever I talk about numeracy to anyone who's working with pre-primary children but who are English specialists, they all go, what? Wow! So this was such fun to write. So we talk about number and counting, calculating and time, and the activity that I thought I'd share with you is a counting activity. It's also a matching activity, but in this case it's a counting activity. It's what we call a beetle game. Now a beetle game is and the template is available online for you to play this game. Okay, so a beetle game is an old family game where each beetle part is numbered. You throw a dice and you draw your beetle according to the number which falls on your dice. So, and there are 6 numbers on a dice, so you need 6 beetle parts. So it's fantastic because you can adapt this to absolutely anything. And so one adaptation that we have done for you is a clown's face for the children to be able to talk about face parts. Now this is actually a game which falls into the exploit stage of the the game-like activities that I mentioned earlier, because the children are able to use language freely. And these are the kinds of games which move into English learning areas, so special areas which you've set up for children to play without the adult being present. So what do you need? You need a Beetle sheet, which has the, where the children can see which parts are equivalent to which number on the dice. And you need a set of pieces. So I don't know if you can see, but the hair, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and the ears are separate. And you can put them together. So that's the completed clown's head. The children, so you set this up. How do you set it up? You would set it up in circle time, where you would have 2 teams, and maybe you'd have a team with orange hair and a team with green hair, and they would, each team members would throw the dice and begin to create their clown's head. And as they throw the dice, they would say the number, and they would say hair is, no, 1 is hair, 2 is nose, 3 is eyes, and then they would create their clown. And once they have done that with you in circle time, the game can be moved into the learning area, and children can play this autonomously without you. It works very well, and there are many, many different topics that you can include. For example, a paint palette with 6 blobs of color, a plate with 6 items of food, a bowl with 6 pieces of fruit, a person with 6 items of clothing, a garden with 6 mini beasts, a zoo with 6 animals. It's fantastic. And of course, the idea is that you have the basic game stays the same. The game itself, the Beetle game, is always the same. It's just the language is different. And the children become familiar with the game, and it's just the language which changes, and it works really nicely. Thank you, Victoria. Okay. That's very nice to see you thrilled. Okay. Visual arts. Now, very much against children being given photocopied sheets to colour in. So we really make an effort here to help you see the importance of learning, of doing and learning through creation, and how we can introduce language and skill development. Then we encourage you to look at different materials and media. For example, we encourage you to simple drawing, pencils on paper, chalk on tarmac, wax crayons on sandpaper, that kind of thing. We help you stage these visual arts activities and help you put them into practice. So I just thought that I would share. We look at drawing, we look at printmaking, collage modeling, and artist-inspired activities. So this is a very simple collage activity, and the template is available online. And the template includes sheets of arms, sheets of legs, sheets of tummies, and sheets of bodies, and sheets of heads. The idea is that you make multiple photocopies of, so you'd have a pink sheet of pink heads, you'd have a green sheet of heads, you'd have a yellow sheet of heads, and you would have to cut them out. And then you give all of these cut out pieces to the children, and they have to create their monster. But of course they need to know body language. So this would come at the end of a sequence of activities where the children had been working on body parts. And I've put 2 here just for you to see how different children do this activity. It's important to do it in smaller groups if you can. So you need to think about having another activity taking place somewhere else while you're, maybe another adult is doing something else with another group of children, but you could have maybe 3 or 4 children, and they are asking you for the different pieces. So they're using language and asking, and then they decide what they want, where they want it. So choice is very important here. But you can see that the 3-year-old, how he is still slightly disjointed, and his head is separate from his body, and his legs aren't attached to his body as well. And you can see how much more precise the 4-year-old is. So this just shows the difference between what a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old are able to do. Now, a very important stage here is the follow-up, where you've done the activity, and then you need to use it for language use. So each child will then show what they've done, but also you can put 2 or 3 up and you can say, how are they different? Or show me a monster with 2 yellow arms, or show me a monster with a pink head, or show me a monster with 5 red legs. And then, if you can, you should display the children's work, and with a little piece of information, with a little piece which says what it is, how you've done it, and why you've done it, and what the children were able to do. Even if you've got some snippets of what the children have said in English, you could put those up as well as part of the display. So we really encourage you to share what the children do with the outside world through displays. Okay, so that's just one idea there, and the template is available online. Looking at learning, well, this is a mega chapter. I'm very, very proud of this one, because no one else has written about assessment in early language learning, and like this. And it's very important to involve all of the voices. So we talk about a melody of voices. We talk about the English teacher, or the teacher of English, the educator if she's involved, the parents, and the children themselves. And this chapter is divided into staff voices, children's voices, and family voices. And I'm not going to tell you anything else, because we did a big webinar in May about this, which you can see in the Delta Publishing membership area. I don't know, I think Alex is probably going to tell you about this area. So you can register in this area, and you can have access to lots of really good Delta Publishing webinars, one of which is the one that Gail and I did in May, and it tells you all about assessment. Okay. So did you want me to answer Irina's question, or at the end? Okay.
Up to you, Sandie.
Let's see. What did she say? Is it whose duty is to prepare these spares, teachers or parents? Okay. Are you talking about the monsters? Well, we do it, the teachers of English. So you need to sit on your sofa while you're watching television and just cut around the shapes. Okay. I mean, we have normally around 25 children in our groups. So we needed to create enough of these body parts for 25 children to have a choice. It's not that difficult. If you put several sheets together and cut them out carefully, you can do it. But the reason we don't have the children doing it is because the objective is for the children to use language to choose what it is they want. If we had to have them cutting it, they could only choose one thing. It would take them forever to cut them out, because cutting at this age, it takes a long time. And we need to balance between what it is we want, the reason for why we're doing this activity. Are we aiming to develop their fine gross motor skills? Okay, so then we want to cut it out. But our aim was for them to speak in English. So we prepared everything. So the speaking in English was possible immediately, because they could see what the objects were, they could decide what it was they wanted, tell us what they wanted, and then make their monster. So you need to decide what your objective is. And for this particular activity, we need to prepare the materials. Okay. Yeah. I think because if you rely on someone else to do it, you can't guarantee that they will do it. And then if you set up an activity and you don't have anything done, then it's not very nice. Yeah. Yes, if you have a helper, that's great. It does take a lot of time, but then the results are that you have a really, really English full activity with the children. So, and it's not stressful because you're thinking, oh, I'm not getting an English done, because all they're doing is cutting. Okay, so that's the 10 chapters. Very, very quickly, I will just talk you through the professional development section, which also has the encounter, engage, and exploit, but it adds evaluate and extend. So let's just very briefly look at the principle 3, which is children develop holistically, show individual differences in development and progress at different rates. So the objective of these activities are to understand how a holistic approach to promoting children's cognitive and development is more appropriate for fulfilling each child's learning. So as you can see, we're getting you to reflect on what it is we are encouraging you to do. Okay, so it is important that teachers realize when they're planning that they know exactly what it is they are developing in the child through a particular activity. As I said, with a monster, you know, if you are cutting, then you're developing gross motor skills, you're not developing language. And as English teachers, we want to develop language, so we need to make sure that that activity suits our objectives, but also enables some form of development as well. Okay, and the fine motor skills were still developed because the child had to pick up the pieces, they had to put the glue on the back, stick them on the paper, and that's still developing fine motor skills. So yeah. So there's a section in the exploit stage which helps you to look at different activities and think about how they contribute to the child's learning and overall development. For example, songs, rhymes, or clapping games contribute to physical development, linguistic development, creative development, and children's social and emotional development. So we look at a rhyme, move forwards, turn around, stop, move backwards, turn around, stop, forwards, backwards, turn around, stop. This is a simple rhyme, but it's actually quite complex for the children to do. So we might want to, and we encourage you to think about how this rhyme might contribute to the general areas of learning and development of the children. So physical development, of course, we have associating the movement with the rhyme and developing the gross motor skills and spatial awareness because they're moving forwards and back and having to turn around. Linguistic development, of course, are the understanding and producing the directions, move forward, move backwards, and following a sequence of events. Cognitive development, understanding the importance of directions as part of safety. So like moving around the classroom. Creative development, pretending to walk or drive a vehicle. So they're pretending to. And then the social emotional, developing self-esteem. Wow, I can do it. I can turn around and not knock my partner over. And the ability to understand and act out the rhyme with other children. So, you know, a rhyme, and look how you are developing the children there. And then we suggest that you take another activity and that you rehearse explaining to parents how this particular activity not only contributes to children's language development, but to the holistic development as well. So that's what activities in part C look like. So teaching English to pre-primary children requires that we provide an effective learning environment of quality, that we link English to early childhood education and care and the child's holistic development, and that we engage in personal and professional development as we do that. So, and I think that this book helps you do that very well. I just wanted to share a review that came out a couple of weeks ago by Kate Gregson, who was a teacher and is now a teacher educator and a teacher trainer. And she says, teaching English to pre-primary is a title I'd highly recommend to teachers of pre-primary English, even those with considerable experience, who may enjoy being challenged in their thinking. It provides a fresh and inspiring view of English teaching as part of holistically educating young children. So it was very nice of her to review it so highly and so nicely, and so I just thought I'd share that with you. So what did I do? I introduced the book, Teaching English to Pre-Primary Children. I presented an overview of the book, I hope. I showed you some snippets from the different sections. I offered you some takeaway activities, and now we're going to answer some questions. I really got 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Sandie. So you asked that everybody is very quiet, and we are really thrilled. That's why we can't say a word. That's breathtaking. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. But normally the chat box is full of comments and stuff, but the Russian teachers are very quiet.
All right, so eventually it was good of us to give you 10 extra minutes, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. Very nice, thank you.
Very nice, thank you.
I'm interested in this Kookaburra song. I think Victoria said...
I don't know, I would really like some questions.
He loves Kookaburra.
Ah, Kookaburra, right, yes. How did it go? It's around. Kookaburra sits in the old gum tree, merry, merry king of the bushes he. Laugh, Kookaburra gay your life must be. And it's so groups of children sing it at different stages. It's really nice actually because Kookaburra comes from Australia. So then you can get the children to look at birds in Australia, but then look at birds in their own country, and also think about, are there any rhymes that they know in Russian about birds? Yeah, and also, yeah, so it's a lovely one. Anyway, but I would love some questions. So does anyone got any questions?
So even if you want to talk to Sandie in person, so you may turn on your mic, your screen, and go ahead with your questions.
Okay, I can't read the name of the person because it's in Russian.
Olga. That's Olga.
Olga, okay, Olga, you ask if you think it's best to use a course book or stories and picture books only and build the whole language learning around them. Well, it's a lot more work if you build the language and learning around picture books and stories. But I personally think it's a more appropriate approach to working with pre-primary children, even though I've written course books. Because, I mean, good course books are good, but you need to remember that, that they won't enable as much integration of the children, of what it is the children really need in relation to what they're learning in their main, you know, in their classrooms with their educators. So if you want to integrate what you're doing, it's best to leave the course book behind and create sequences of learning using other tools like picture books and stories. But you will need to use games and game-like activities, and you know, there need to be arts and crafts activities in there as well, and all sorts of different things. So you need, and that's the hard work, because you need to ensure that you are covering everything. So it takes a lot of preparation, which is why so many people prefer to use course books. But ideally, the thing is also, if you begin to not use course books, you realize that you're creating materials which you can reuse again and again and again. So you need to make sure that the materials you create are very durable and long-lasting. And if you're with a group of teachers, then you can help each other by each creating different topic sets of materials or learning sequences and then sharing them. And there's nothing better than a group of teachers working together and giving feedback. You know, this worked for me, this didn't work for me, I made these changes, what do you think? So that's really nice. So yes, I mean, if you haven't got time, a course book is probably your best option. But if you do have time and you want to do it really well, move away from the course book. Yeah. Any other questions? Well,
so somehow teachers have to digest a lot of information, a lot of useful
absolutely
information.
No, there was lots of information there, and I realized as I was planning, I thought, how stupid was I to say I was going to talk about all the book? But I hope I gave you a flavor. And
there's a question from Katarina. Ekaterina, what course books do you use, if any?
I don't use any.
Okay.
No, the teachers I work with don't use any. We use materials that we've developed ourselves, based on how because I learned to be a teacher through really good course books, but by practicing and trying out and seeing what worked and what didn't work and persevering. So there is a place for a course book. Teachers can learn a lot from a really well done course book, and a good course book will have an excellent teacher's guide. So yes, Discover with Dex and Hello Jack are two course books I participated in. And the teacher's guides are really solid. And so if you don't know how to work with pre-primary children, then yes, you know, they will help you enormously. But hopefully after 3 or 4 years, you will be able to be much more autonomous and to think, well, no, I learned how to do this through Discover with Dex and Hello Jack, and I can try it doing something else as well. So I encourage you to you know, be creative and move away from the course book if you can, if you have the time. Yeah.
But I guess now many teachers know which book they need. Am I right?
Sorry, say that again.
So I think now many teachers know which book instead of course book they need to use.
Yes, I mean this will hopefully help you move away from the course book. I'm not saying that you have to, but this will give you lots of additional ideas, and will maybe even help you be a little bit critical about what you're doing, which is also the idea. I mean, what we want more than anything is for you to, you need to enjoy what you're doing, but the children need to learn, and you need to work with them in a way which is appropriate to the age of the children. So, yeah. Yes, say hello. I'm not familiar with the course, with the teacher's guide of say hello, but yes, we wrote this, as I said, we wrote this to help you become a good teacher of pre-primary children. So, and we wrote it to help you have your early childhood education's hat on, as well as your English hat, because you need to have them both on, definitely.
Just to let you know, I've put the link there to our website, the link for the book. There's also my email on there, so if anybody would like any further information about any other Delta Publishing titles, then feel free to drop me an email. And as Sandie said, there's also a link to our members section, which is absolutely free. If you log in, sign up, log in, you'll then have access to our media catalogue, where you can view previous webinars and some other free resources also. Yeah, and if you do buy the book, which of course I hope you do, that's why I've done the webinar, do let me know how, if there's something in there that you particularly liked or didn't like, what has worked well. It's so nice to get feedback from teachers. We don't often get it. Authors don't often get feedback, so it's really nice to get feedback. And I have to admit, my heart is in this book. So it'd be nice to know what you think of my heart.
Thank you, Sandie. And yes, Victoria, we have been waiting for this book, and hopefully you will get it very, very soon.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. And so you may, I gave you all the details, all the contacts from Anara. So please do not hesitate to contact us. So, and we will give you all the information about the book, all right? And where you can order and when you can buy it, because we are also looking forward to having it as well as you are, all right?
Okay.